What is up everyone, Movie Win back again with another in the month vlog. This is just me talking about everything I watched in the month of December 2023. I would just like to say before I do get into it, in case you missed my Blu-ray and 4K update, I did wish everyone a happy new year in that video. So if you're watching this and you didn't see that one, I hope you all had a great Christmas and happy new year for the year of 2024. I hope it's all a good one for everyone, and let's hope we get a good year of movies. I think 2023 was fine, not as good as 22, but it was still fine. So let's hope we get some good ones this year as well. Now, most of this video is me just catching up on a lot of 2023 releases before the year ended. There was so many movies I wanted to see, and I like to see as many as I can within the year, but there's still plenty I haven't seen that I can catch up on. But there are also lots of Blu-rays here to show, and there's some streaming movies, and there's a TV show in there as well. Now, this is probably the biggest one I've done all year. I think there's like 28 things to talk about here, so it's going to be a little bit of a bigger video than usual. So hope you all enjoy it. Let's just get into it now with the first thing I watched in December. First up, we have Napoleon. Now, I wasn't really fancying this too much, but Ridley Scott did make The Last Duel, and I didn't really fancy that one either, and it ended up being in my top 10 movies of, was it 2021 or 22? I can't quite remember, but it was in my top 10, and that film really surprised me. I was really, I really enjoyed that one, and then I thought, okay, maybe Napoleon will surprise me as well. And I'm not really usually into massive historic war epics. They're just not really my go-to genre, but because it was Ridley Scott who'd done The Last Duel and stuff, I went with my friend Jamie. He's my cinema partner, and we went and watched this one. He fancied it a bit more than me. And I've got to say, this is nowhere near on the level of The Last Duel. It's a little bit of a boring movie, I've got to say. A little bit of a dull and depressing film. Joaquin Phoenix, obviously, he puts a good performance in every time you watch him, doesn't he, really? He's good as the central character. I like the focus of the romance with him and Vanessa Kirby's character. The movie plays on that a lot, and she is great. I think she's awesome in Mission Impossible and stuff, and there's a film called Pieces of a Woman where I really wanted her to get nominated for an Oscar. I thought she was excellent. She's a great actress, and she puts a good performance in here as well. And the chemistry between these two, this love-hate relationship they've got going on, was a really interesting part of the film. The battle scenes and stuff were really well filmed, really exciting at times as well. It was all the in-between that just really dragged, and the movie just seemed to go on forever. When the pieces of dialogue are happening and stuff between characters, and I was just like, this really just isn't for me. I give it 3 stars on my Letterboxd, but I'd probably bump it down to about a 2.5. Recency bias played into a part of that, I feel. But overall, I didn't love this film. I can't see myself returning to it ever again, really. That is Napoleon. Next up, we have a movie from 1960, and this is Never Take Sweets from a Stranger. And this was recommended by, I think, Scott the Movie Critic and Nige have seen this movie. I overheard them on a live stream saying how much they enjoyed this film and how kind of heartbreaking it was and stuff like that. I thought, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. And this was in the 3 for 15 sale in Indicator, and I thought, I'll give this a shot. It's only like 80 minutes long. So this movie absolutely flies by, but my God, this was such a brilliant movie. It basically is about this family who move into this town, and the young girl goes to take sweets from this stranger up the road, and something happens while they're in the house. I won't get into it too much so you haven't seen the movie, but really, it's criminal what happens, basically. And it's about this family who've just moved there, trying to take this guy to court, but he is very high up in the town. He's like one of the most respected men in the whole town and stuff. And it sort of merges into this court battle type deal. And you really get on the side of the parents here. As a parent myself now, this movie did infuriate me. And I was kind of just sort of saying to the screen, do this, yes, do this, make this decision. Because as a parent, you are very protective of your kids. And the last 20 minutes sort of went into a little bit of, I wouldn't say a horror movie, but sort of adjacent horror movie, if you like, sort of down that dark path. And it is a bit of a heartbreaking film, but my God, the acting in this film was amazing across the board. Every single character done their job. And I feel like movies from this era and the 50s and stuff, and the 70s really, everyone's just putting the heart into things. I'm not saying actors are bad these days or anything, But my God, I could hear every single line of dialogue. It just felt like the emotion on everyone's face was truthful. You felt like you were there with these characters. And when I say you could hear every line of dialogue, there's so many times now I'm rewinding movies going, what did they say then? And my wife's the same, and I don't think it's my ears, because even with the subtitles on, sometimes you can't quite make out what they're saying. But here, everything was spot on. Everyone just delivered a great performance. And it's, you know what, it's a really good film. I highly recommend this movie. I thought it was fantastic. So that is, never take sweets from a stranger, or if you're in the US, never take candy from a stranger. Next up, we have a movie that you probably won't believe I have never seen. This was a first-time watch for me. Yes, Mrs. Doubtfire. I used to have all these VHSs years ago, and this was always on the trailers. And I just don't know why I never got to it. All my friends loved it at the time and stuff. And yeah, it's just one of them movies I never got round to. I think we've all got them films. This probably is the most popular one I've never seen, though. But I'm glad to have finally seen it. And this deals with a bit of a depressing subject matter. It's about a divorce, because Robin Williams, his wife, played by Sally Field, has sort of had enough and just wants to split up. But they've got these 3 kids, and Robin Williams will do anything to see these kids. So Sally Field is after the cleaner, and he's like this voice animated actor, and he takes on the role of Mrs. Doubtfire to become the cleaner, so we can see his kids a lot more often. You've all seen the movie, I'm sure. I'm sure I'm the only one, but you know what? It's a dark subject matter that is sort of lightened by the comedy in the movie. There's some really funny moments in this film, but I think it delivers its message. Not its message, but has an outcome that works for everyone in the movie. May not work for all the audience, but it just sort of seems like things don't always work out the way they seem, and we just have to deal with this, really. And this is the way life takes us. I think it's a really well-written movie. You know, they've got Robin Williams' brother in this, who's like a mask maker, like a costume designer, and he makes up the Mrs. Doubtfire outfit and stuff like that. And Sally Field, you think you'd be against her because Robin Williams can't see his kids, but she is you understand her character as well and where she's coming from. So I think the movie does a good job of sort of understanding all the characters' situations in this movie. And, you know, it's one of the moments that really made me laugh in this movie. I think it's the most famous scene in the movie, but Pierce Brosnan is choking at the restaurant, and Miss Doubtfire runs up to him and goes, "Help is on the way, dear." Absolutely love that scene. I was laughing my ass off. I rewound it about 4 times. But yeah, Miss Doubtfire, glad to have finally seen this one, and definitely glad to own it in the collection. Next up, we have Transformers Rise of the Beasts on 4K. Now, I had a bit of a history with this movie. I booked the cinema to go and watch this, and the night I was meant to go, my wife had to go to the hospital. She was pregnant at the time, and everything turned out okay, but there was a little bit of a scare there. And my son's born now anyway, so yeah, everything turned out well. And then the second time I went to watch this, I went in, 20 minutes into the movie, the projector melted. So I just felt like fate was against me to watch this film. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to watch this before the year ends, and I bought it on 4K. And this is probably a middle-of-the-road Transformers movie. It's definitely better than The Last Night and the dinosaur one, Age of Extinction. Really don't like them 2 movies whatsoever. So it's a way higher bar than them 2. But I don't like it as much as some of the others. This is, like I said, very middle of the road movie. I don't think the Beast characters, I forgot what they're called in this. Sorry, I'm really sorry. The Maximals, is it? Yeah, the Maximals, I think. They just didn't really bring anything to the movie for me. The Autobots were definitely still the most interesting parts of the film. Some great fight scenes and stuff. It looked awesome on 4K. The human side of characters, there's an attempt there, and we spend a lot more time with them in this movie than the Autobots, I feel, but they weren't really doing it for me. I didn't really care. I just was there to see some Transformers action. So it's a 3 out of 5 movie. Typical blockbuster that we seem to get a lot of this year. A forgettable blockbuster, really. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I would watch it again if I was doing a Transformers binge, of course, but glad to have finally seen it. That is Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Forgot the name there. Next up, we have a movie I had very high hopes for, and that is The Killer, that came to Netflix, David Fincher's latest movie, who is one of my favourite directors of all time. I love so many of his films, Fight Club, and, you know, Social Network, all of them movies that he makes are just awesome, aren't they? I even like Alien 3. And I gotta say, this is probably one of his weakest movies, but I still thought it was okay. I mean, I just expected a lot more. Sometimes you shouldn't go in expecting too much, I feel. But this is based on a graphic novel, and it follows Michael Fassbender, who is this assassin, and he misses a contract. He misses the shot, and then it all opens a big can of worms, and it's up to him to start cleaning up every little piece of evidence to do with him, every attachment, and find out what's been going on, why he, sort of people who are coming after him and stuff like that. And it's a step-by-step movie. Like, there's 6 chapters in this, and each chapter is just one big section of the movie. Like, the first chapter is him leading up to take the shot, but it takes about 20 minutes to finally find his moment and stuff. And he's even narrating the film going, you got to have patience for this job and stuff like that. And the narration from him was really good. I like the way he led the viewer on in the movie and told the story. And Michael Fassbender was a really calculated assassin here. But I just thought the movie was very simple. There was no twists and turns along the way, really. It's all just a very simple story that I feel like I've seen this quite a few times. Just not structured like this, really, with the chapters and stuff, but I've seen this story before. So overall, I was kind of disappointed. It was fine, it was okay, but nice looking movie, nicely shot and stuff, but not one that I did love or looking forward to returning to anytime soon. That is The Killer. Next up we have Bottoms. Now this was one of the funniest comedies I've seen all year. I heard a lot of talk about this because it was released in the US and stuff, and I thought I'm going to have to check this out. And this is about 2 cheerleaders, two losers in high school who are lesbians, and they want to sleep with cheerleaders, so they make up this fight club where all the women can join because they want to toughen the women up, and it's like kind of a trap to sort of get a bit of a romance going with these girls. And you know what? This was really, really funny with the way he uses itself as a parody, really, at times. Like, I think it parodies the subgenre of high school comedies, and it just goes a little bit too far at times, but because it works within the movie and the type of comedy it's going for, like at the end, there's this big fight on the football pitch, for example, and it's over the top violence and stuff, and you just think this would never happen, but it fits with the theme of the movie, so you go along with it anyway. And there's this teacher who's sort of watching over this fight club that they've made, making sure nothing goes too dangerous, and he couldn't be further from a teacher if he tried. I mean, he was just a really fun character. I mean, the way he talks to the students and everything, but he was awesome in the movie. And Rachel Sennott is a character who I just think she's fun. You know, she brings a fun vibe to everything she's in. She's a really entertaining actress, and I loved watching her in this movie. It was just a great time. So Bottoms, if you're after a fun comedy, it's a bit Gen Z, is it? What gen are we in now? I don't know. It's a bit on that humour, but I had a great time with it. So that is Bottoms. Now next up we have a film that I thought was okay the first time I watched it, but this time it absolutely blew me away, and this is going to be my older release of the month, and that is Spiderman Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know what it was the first time I watched it. I think it was just like, oh, what is this multiverse story going on here? But definitely understood it a hell of a lot more this time, and fully focused on the movie, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. So basically it's the story of Miles Morales, and I'm sure all of you have seen this movie, and I'm sure all of you are gasping that I didn't really like it that much the first time, but man, this was amazing. Amazing film. So much emotion within the characters, so many great story arcs going on with all the different Spider-Men and stuff like that. Great animation. The best animation I've ever seen, really. I mean, this is probably the best looking 4K I own. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, this is absolutely unbelievable. It's just every frame in the movie is used to its full potential. Like, even the backgrounds are used to tell a story, really. You know, they don't just have blank backgrounds, and there's always something going on. I absolutely loved it. I did. And one of the main reasons I went back to this is because I really wanted to rewatch Across the Spider-Verse, which I'll get into in a bit. Because I remember just thinking that movie was fine, but everyone was raving about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to rewatch that. So I went back to this one, and then once this finished, I was so excited to check the second one out again. But yeah, what an amazing movie. This is how you do a multiverse film. It doesn't play too heavily on fanfare and stuff. It does it right. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the character of Gwen as well. Thought she was great. But yeah, what a movie. One of the best animated films of all time. That is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Next up is a TV show that I finally finished, and this was Goosebumps on Disney+. Now, I was a big fan of the anthology series as a kid. You know, a lot of people my age watched that, and Are You Afraid of the Dark? And this was done in a different way, which I appreciated. Don't know if I prefer it, but I appreciated a different approach, because I just thought this is going to be another anthology series, and I thought I was definitely up for it. But this just all plays out episode after episode. Like, they all carry on one from another, and it tells this story about this boy who sort of died in this house years before, and this teacher, played by Justin Long, moves into the house, and a little bit of a curse is going on with him and around the town and stuff like that. And this had good characters. You know, I like the characters that we follow around. There's like a group of friends there who have to work with Justin Long to get to the bottom of it. Justin Long is so wacky and crazy in some of these scenes in these episodes, but it also uses each episode to name one of the books. Like, one might be the Cuckoo Clock of Doom, and the clock will play a part within the story. And then we might have the Haunted Mask, and the mask will play a part in the story. It all comes together as one story. So I like the way they've done that. Something a little bit of a different approach. My biggest gripe with this is the look of it. I thought it looked so dull and dishwashy. Did not like the colour palette on this whatsoever. It just kind of looked depressing at times. It was all very grey and stuff. And I just think it would have been worked better with a bit of colour in there. But overall, it wasn't bad. I didn't mind it. Glad to have finally seen it. I think it might have been an episode 1 or 2 long. I mean, 8 episodes would have been perfect for this. And I felt like it was going to finish, and then there was another 2 episodes to go. So I think if they trimmed it down, it would have been overall a better experience. But Goosebumps, it was fine. Next up, we have Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Now, this came to Amazon Prime, and I'd heard a lot of talk about it. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to check this out. It's got Rachel McAdams in there, who will basically get me to watch anything she's in. I absolutely love her in Wedding Crashers and Mean Girls, of course. I think she's a fantastic actress. And this is a really heartwarming, sweet movie, really. It follows this young girl, Margaret, who moves to New York with her parents, and she's away from her grandma, who's her best friend and stuff. So it's a little bit tough for her, but she meets this girl who lives over the road. And this girl is kind of acting a little bit older than her, even though she's the same age. And she's talking about women developing and liking boys and stuff. And this Margaret character hasn't really got into that really at this age. She's not really ready for all that. And she feels like to get in with this friend and her other friends, she's got to start acting like that. And they're all talking about, have you got your period yet? And she's like feeling this pressure of not having her period and stuff like that. And, you know, she's forcing herself to try and like certain boys at school. So it's a movie about a lot of pressure coming on this young girl. And I can imagine this happens to lots of young girls around the world, and young boys as well. I mean, everyone wants to fit in, don't they, at some point in school and stuff when they're younger. So I think the movie dealt with that very well. And Rachel McAdams, who plays the mother of this character, was a really sweet woman, and I really wanted to work out for her in the movie. There's some little bit of a family history going on there in the movie, and that plays on that a lot. So there's a lot of character arc going on, not just for this central Margaret character, but other characters in the movie as well, like the grandma and Rachel McAdams. And I thought it was just a well-written film. It was a really good coming-of-age movie. And you know what? If you just want to watch something really simple and fun, and there's some really funny moments in this as well, definitely give this one a go. It surprised the hell out of me. Next up, we have another animated film, and this is Mortal Kombat Legends Cage Match. I didn't know one of these is getting released every year. I've seen Scorpion's Revenge, but I wasn't aware that there was one coming every year, like the Batman animated movies. And I thought, you know what, this one looks like a good 80s vibe to it. Kind of looks like GTA Vice City in a cartoon. I thought, I'm going to give this a go. And I'm a fan of the Mortal Kombat games. I mean, I'm not a massive fan, but I grew up playing the PlayStation and Mega Drive games. I played a few of the, you know, Mortal Kombat X and stuff like that. But I loved the movie from '95, and the new one was good and stuff. So I'm a casual Mortal Kombat fan, let's put it that way. I thought, I'm going to give this a go, and you know what? It's got a lot of violence in there and stuff, like it should have, but it kind of, the blood kind of drips around this cool 80s retro theme. And you got Johnny Cage basically trying to save Los Angeles. Now, I thought the voice work on him was awesome. He's a really cool character, and he should be, because that's what he's like in the movies and games. And I just, after about 30 minutes and stuff, I kind of was losing my interest a little bit. I mean, it was fine. It's just not as good as Scorpion's Revenge, and I don't know if it's as good as any of the other ones, but I would like to check them out. But overall, it was a fine adult animated movie. So that is Mortal Kombat Legends Cage Match. Get into a bit of a Christmas movie here now, a horror Christmas film. There's not too many Christmas films to talk about. A little bit of depression talking about Christmas films in January, isn't it? I had a great time being off work. I really did. Anyway, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3. Better watch out. Now, this was actually a first time watch for me. I've seen the first two a couple of times. I've actually reviewed this in full on my horror channel. So if you guys want to go and check that out, I'll leave the link down below to my horror channel. But this was an improvement on Part 2. Just not much of an improvement. I really hate Part 2 now. It was fun the first time just to see the wacky acting, but when you go and rewatch it, man, it's a dull movie. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Part 3 isn't much better, but it's better. And this follows this blind woman who they think she has connection to the killer from the second movie. Oh, what's the guy's name? Oh, God. I forgot that. Whatever the killer's name is in the second movie. Ricky Caldwell. I knew that. Sorry for the pause there. Ricky Caldwell. And they've kept him alive, you know, barely, and putting his brain back together and stuff. And they feel like she's got a connection with this character. And they're trying to tap into his brain and see if she can go into his brain and see what he sees and stuff. And that was all fine. I liked the different approach to that. But after about 20 minutes, this movie just sort of fizzles out into a slasher film and forgets all of that. Because Ricky Caldwell breaks free and comes after this girl who is visiting her grandma on Christmas Eve. So it just turns into a stalker slasher movie, really. I kind of wish they would have kept that storyline and went with that, but it just totally forgets it. There's so many off-kill screens here. There's so many moments where characters are just walking around the house and, you know, cooking dinner, looking around the house, then two characters will get in the bath together just to get some nudity and nothing really to progress the story. And all that could have been used to progress the ambitious plot we had at the start of the film, but no. And oh my God, Ricky Caldwell gets shotgun blasted at one point, gets back up, and then this little stick kills him. I think the shotgun blast would be a lot more effective, but there you go. So overall, not really a good movie. That is Silent Night, Deadly Night 3. Next up is a really strong movie, I thought, for the year, and that is How to Have Sex. Now, I was watching ITV Granada Reports, and this character, or was it Regional News? I can't quite remember. And the director, Molly something, she took her movie, How to Have Sex, into the schools and let a few students watch it, and they all give their thoughts on the movie afterwards and how it made them think and stuff like that. And they were showing clips from it and stuff, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and watch this. And it was on for one day at my Odeon, and I went and watched it. And I thought it was fantastic. Like, it follows these three young girls, or teenage girls, should I say, who were going on holiday for the first time together. And it relates it a little bit, because this is a British movie. And you feel like you've been to these hotels where these girls go and stay. And they, you know, it just felt like you were on kind of reliving a holiday, basically, seeing these going to have fun in nightclubs and stuff, and they kind of meet these guys next door and go flirt with them and go to the nightclubs with them and hang around the hotel together and you get drunk and stuff like that. And that is basically the movie for the first hour and 20 minutes, really. And then something happens, and I'm not going to get into it, but after the movie, you're like, shit, man, that was something to think about there, really. Now, I think this is going to relate to women a hell of a lot more, but guys, take note as well. Definitely 100%. But this kind of reminded me of After Sun a little bit, just with a little bit of a darker tone, just because you're following these people on holiday, basically. And I thought the teenage girl, the main focus of this movie, I'm really sorry, I forgot the actress's name. She was excellent. You know, the main character of the movie, she was excellent. I would love to see her more in things going forward. I just thought she was someone you really latched onto. You felt sorry for her at times and stuff. She's kind of like it's, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, but she's getting pressured into things, you know what I mean? I feel like, you know, you sort of wanted her to just make her own mind up at times and stuff like that. But I thought this movie was excellent. I think it's on movie streaming. and movie Blu-ray soon, probably. Definitely give it a go, especially if you're British and stuff. It's a really good British film, and one that makes you think. So that is How to Have Sex. Next up, we have Past Lives. So many people have got this in their top 10 movies of the year and stuff, so I decided I'm going to check this out. And you know what? It lived up to expectation a little bit there. It's not in my top 10 of the year or anything, but I thought that this was something really heartwarming. This is about two characters who live in Korea, and they are best friends, and there's a bit of a romance going on there. You can see there's a connection with these two characters. You know, they kind of can't live without the other one, but one of them decides to go to New York to progress her career, and the movie goes 10 years later, and these characters reconnect through social media, and they're sort of thinking about getting back together some way to connect again and see each other again, because they haven't seen each other for a long time. But one of the characters is living a very different life now, and the other one is still in Korea and stuff like that. So the movie plays on what could have been and what actually is, and kind of things don't always work out the way they are intended. So I don't want to say too much more than that. It's just a film worth watching. It's a very simple one to watch, but you get invested in these characters. It's a really sweet movie with a lot of emotion in there, I feel. You know, you really do get into this story. So I thought it was really good. I think it's in my top 20, just didn't make my top 10. So that is Past Lives. Next up, we have Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, The Initiation. Now, I was really surprised by this one. I thought it was probably the best sequel out of the entire franchise. And this one does its own thing. It's kind of like the Halloween 3 of the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise, really. Kind of feels like an anthology film. And this follows this young reporter who sees this woman set herself on fire, or did she set herself on fire, and falls off the top of this apartment block. And she's this upcoming journalist, and she wants the story of her editor. And he decides to cave in and give it to her, even though he doesn't really want to. And she becomes like this side detective journalist trying to uncover what has actually happened. And the further she gets into this story, the darker the path becomes. Now, this felt like a little bit of a giallo movie at times, and the whole mystery of the film really kept me intrigued. I thought the main actress in this film was someone you really latched onto, and from a straight male perspective, she was smoking hot. So that helped. But, you know, you really wanted her to get to the bottom of this. And, you know, I just thought it was a really decent film for a straight-to-TV movie. I mean, it does suffer from cheap-looking visuals and stuff, and not the best actors and here and there, apart from the main protagonist, really. But it was a good little mystery crime thriller movie. Not sure it should be in this franchise. There's hardly any Christmas themes thrown in there, apart from one Christmas party and one scene. But overall, I really dug it, and something that surprised the hell out of me. So that is Silent Night, Deadly Night 4, The Initiation. Next up, we have Godzilla -1. Now, I went to cinema to watch this thinking, oh, a Godzilla movie, this will be fine. I've seen the other ones, the American ones, and they were fine. But this one was a Japanese film, and it has subtitles and stuff. So I thought, you know what, there might be a little bit of a different mix on this. I'd heard a lot of people in the US raving about it because they got it 2 weeks earlier than us, as usual. And why am I laughing at that? It really annoys me. Why did they get everything early? God damn it. Basically, I went to cinema to watch this and didn't expect too much, and it was the biggest surprise of the entire year. This movie was absolutely phenomenal. This is actually second in my top 10 movies of the year. I might do a top 10 movies of 2023, guys. If you guys want to let me know if that's something you'd like to see on our channel, I'll do it. I'm thinking about doing it anyway. But this basically follows this young Japanese kamikaze pilot who sort of, I wouldn't say he's a coward, but people see him as a coward because he didn't fulfill his duty in the war. And Japan is in ruin now, so some people are blaming him, saying people like you lost us the war and stuff like that. And Japan is just basically on its ass, basically. And they're trying to recover. And this kamikaze pilot meets this woman, and they sort of take this girl in who's lost her family and stuff like that. And they're trying to rebuild. And next minute, Godzilla just comes and wipes everyone out. And I think that's why the movie is called -1, because Japan have a scale of how well the country is doing, and I think it's like on 2 if it's doing well, 1 if it's in trouble, none if it's devastated by war, and then Godzilla just comes along and makes it -1. I think that's why it's called that. And it's up to this kamikaze pilot and this team of people to try and take down Godzilla. And you know what, man? I just couldn't believe how good this was. The action scenes with Godzilla and stuff were mind-blowing. It's kind of just showed Hollywood how to do a Hollywood blockbuster. This felt like a brilliant movie that we used to get in the 80s and 90s and stuff. There's so many retro Godzilla things thrown in there, like the music and stuff like that from the classic movies, but it just totally works. There's so many well-built, tense moments, like when Godzilla's tail's lighting up, I was like, holy shit, what's going to happen here? But the human characters are people you latch onto. You really do care about them. And that's not usually the case for these monster movies, especially like Godzilla 2014 and stuff, and Godzilla vs. Kong. I've never really cared about the human characters, but this time I did. And when we were spending time with them, I didn't care, because they were equally as good as the Godzilla moments. This will be a 10 out of 10 for me. The only problem I had was a little bit of a pacing issue in the 3rd act, because as much as I do like spending time with the human characters, there's a long sequence that does take place with the human characters, and it was very balanced all the way throughout, apart from a moment in the 3rd act. But overall, one of the best movies I've ever seen, honestly. It was absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to grab this on 4K and watch it again on my OLED TV downstairs, because my wife needs to watch this movie. I've been telling her how good it is. I couldn't stop thinking about it for like 2 weeks. I really should have went and seen it again. The sound design and everything at the cinema was awesome. If you get a chance, go and see it, but definitely check it out on 4K or digital when it comes. So that is Godzilla -1, my new release of the month. Next up, we have Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5, The Toy Maker. Now, this was a really interesting concept, really. Again, it's a little bit of an anthology one, does its own thing, but it's got more of a Christmas theme in it than Silent Night, Deadly Night 4. And this sees this young boy get a mysterious present delivered to his house around Christmas time. And his dad opens the present, and this toy kills his dad in front of his very eyes. And it just puts so much trauma on the young boy. And it happens again a few more times, and the movie sort of, the mother of this kid is trying to investigate what is going on here, who's delivering these murderous presents and stuff like that. And I thought it was a really cool mystery film, let down by a very terrible last 20 minutes. I mean, when it's all revealed and stuff, the costume design and everything on the screen is just like, holy shit, this looks absolutely awful. I'm out of this movie now. But for a long period of time, I was into this film. I thought it was fine. There's some cool moments where one of the mystery gifts is these rollerblades, and the kid over the road robs the present, puts these rollerblades on. Next minute, they've got a mind of their own, and they're just ragging them all around the road with these sparks coming out off the rollerblades and stuff. I thought that was fun. But yeah, not a bad one. Definitely better than some in the franchise, that's for sure. 2 and 3, I'm looking at you. That is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5, The Toy Maker. And next up, we have Silent Night. I watched the entire franchise. I watched the first 2 in November, and I watched the rest this month. And I've done a full ranking of these movies on my horror channel. Again, the link will be down below. This is Silent Night, and I thought this was going to be my favourite. It was a 2012 modern retelling of the first movie, or modern remake. I say it's a remake. It's a totally different storyline, really. Or sort of. But it's got subtle little Easter eggs in there that relate to the first film and stuff like that. But this is basically just about a Santa going around killing people. But there's a mystery aspect to it. You kind of don't know who this killer is, and you're trying to piece it all together as the movie goes on. Some really brutal deaths in this movie. There's a woman who's thrown into a wood chipper at one point. The Santa Claus is going around with a flamethrower and stuff like that. So it was fun in that aspect. It has a very gritty, dark feel to it. I mean, you wouldn't be mistaken if Rob Zombie directed this movie, because that's what it felt like, a Rob Zombie movie. And Malcolm McDowell's even in there, so even more. I just realised that as I was saying it. My big problem with this movie is it's a mystery film. You kind of guess who this Santa Claus is. And something is thrown in the 3rd act that is just totally from left field and had nothing to do with the story. And you kind of just didn't see it coming. You're like, how am I meant to be piecing this together when that's happened? Yeah, so it kind of just felt left the viewer shortchanged. But overall, it wasn't bad. That is Silent Night. Getting into another Christmas movie now, and that is Home Alone. Now, I this just grows on me every year. Like, I've always loved the movie, but every single time I watch it, I just notice little things about it that just enhance the movie for me. Like, how well written this film is. Basically, I'm sure you've all seen it. Kevin McAllister is left at home, 2 burglars break into his house, and it's up to him to stop them and save the neighborhood. That's basically it. I'm sure you've all seen Home Alone. I think, like Miss Dfire, everyone's seen this movie, I'm sure. But yeah, I just noticed little things about it here and there. How, like, when he's in Buzz's room and he pulls the shelf down and the spider escapes, and it just shows the spider in it for a couple of seconds throughout the movie, and you're like, huh, the spider's still roaming around the house, and then Kevin uses it later on to put on Marv's face. Things like that just work for me. Like, I love the maturity of Kevin McAllister throughout the film, where he's starting to not be afraid of his basement and stuff like that. How he's learning to mature as a young teen. Well, he's only 8 years old, but, you know, you see the arc. He hasn't got a clue at the start of the movie. By the end, he's took on 2 bad guys and stuff like that. I just think it doesn't waste a scene, a second, a piece of dialogue, really. I love the Old Man Marley story. That, for me, is the magic of this movie. And I used to hate that as a kid. I used to think, oh, these scenes are boring where he's talking to him in the church and stuff. But every time now I see Old Man Marley phone up his son at the end and give him a hug and see his granddaughter, I get so emotional, man. I think I'm just getting soft in my older age, but it gets me every time, and I love that part of the movie. It's my favourite part of the entire film. So, yeah, it's got the Christmas feel in there while being a hilarious comedy. Some really fun traps and stuff in here. Marv stepping on a nail. I love it when he goes in and goes, why are you dressed like a chicken? And he goes, why the hell do you take your shoes off? Yeah, really fun movie. That's Home Alone. Next up, we have a movie that has been on everyone's lips since it came to Amazon Prime, and I'm sort of one of them. That is Saltburn. Yes, I didn't really fancy this from the trailer at the cinema and stuff. I just thought, oh, what is this? Is this like a pretentious film, an art housey flick? I was totally wrong. It isn't really that at all. And this is Barry Keoghan. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm just going to go with Keoghan. And he is this new, like, he's just started university. He's a bit of a nerd. He doesn't really have any friends apart from this one psychopath who tries to latch onto him. But he doesn't really matter. And he gets in with this rich guy who's the most popular kid at the university, and they become really good friends. And this rich guy says, why don't you come and stay at my mansion for the summer? Because I know you're alone, and his father's that just died and stuff like that. So I know you're a bit of alone. Come and stay with my family. And he does at this mansion called Saltburn. And what happens from this point on is so many weird things involving Barry Keoghan's character. I don't want to get into it too much, but I'm sure you've all heard of what happens anyway. There's a bathtub scene that nearly made me vomit. I mean, I've seen Salo, the 120 Days of Sodom. I've seen August Underground, the most disturbing movies you can ever think of. But this one actually made me bawl. I was like, ugh. And there's other moments involving some blood from... I'm sure you've all heard it before. But apart from that, this is still a really good drama with some really fun moments thrown in. And when the movie wrapped up, I thought, you know what, that was actually a really clever film. So I definitely recommend giving this a go. It's something different. I'm sure I recommended it to my friend Jack, and he was texting me last night going, what the hell is this you've put me on? It's horrible, but it's good, isn't it? So yeah, I definitely recommend this one. That is Saltburn. Next up, we have Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Used to be my favourite of the Home Alone films, but I definitely prefer the first one, even though I rated them both the same on Letterboxd. It's only slightly better. This is basically the same premise, just takes place in New York. Why I prefer the first one, I just think the Old Man Marley story is better than the Pigeon Lady and the house. Even though it's got better traps in this one, it's the look of it. It's like a renovated house. It doesn't really feel like a home, and that never used to bother me, but the more I watch it now, I'm more like, oh, this house just isn't the best setting, really. But yeah, it's still a really fun movie. I love how Marv's just robbing everything in sight in this film. Like, they lose Kevin in the park, and they walk away and go, oh, you know, he won't survive out there. And as they're walking away, he just robs someone's hat who walks past. Things like that really kill me. I think it's this one as well where he goes, I hope your mother and father got you a tombstone for Christmas. But yeah, The traps in this movie are on another level to the first, though, that must be said. Like, that big bar that comes down the stairs and smashes them in the face. I love how Harry gets his hair set on fire and then he puts his head down the toilet and the house just blows up. I laugh at that every single time. That is Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, classic. Next up, we have another great Christmas film that gets better every time I watch it, and that is Elf. Basically, Will Ferrell climbs his way into Santa's toy sack. I'm not saying sack, toy sack. When he's in this orphanage, and when they open up the sack, he crawls out and he's living with the elves, but he's not really an elf, he's a human. And when he's 30, he decides to go and find his real father in New York, played by James Caan. And James Caan is the total opposite of Buddy the Elf. He's just this miserable, angry man. And Buddy the Elf is this joyful, larger-than-life character, basically. And it couldn't be two more opposite people if you tried. And it's about him trying to get to know his dad and stuff like that. Just a really, really fun time. I really love the character of Zoe Deschanel, is it? Who just really, the way she delivers her dialogue is just fairly straight-laced, but so funny. Like, she's a humorous person without being humorous, if that makes sense. And she's like the romance part for Buddy the Elf and stuff. But I love how well written this one is as well. The way he kind of brings joy to everyone. And, you know, there's a character arc for James Caan going on there because of Buddy the Elf himself and stuff. Yeah, I love the moment where Peter Dinklage is in this as well, and Buddy calls him an angry elf, and it's just a big fight ensues. But yeah, really, really good Christmas film. I watch this every year. We watch this on Christmas Eve. You know what? Christmas Eve is starting to become my favourite time of Christmas now, just to build up to it, and you get a takeaway, basically, a few beers, and watch Elf. Yeah, so, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It gets better every year. That is Elf. I'll probably talk about this in next year's December video as well. Next up, we have a sequel that no one really asked for, and that was Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. This came to Netflix, and I thought, this will be an easy little watch. I'll throw it on. And this is basically, instead of trying to escape the chicken farm, they have to go into it, because the two main chickens from the first movie have a daughter now, and they go in to try and rescue their daughter, who sort of wants an adventure and to get out of this little paradise they live, because she hasn't seen any of the world before. It's fine. It's an easy enough watch. There was a Scouse chicken in this one that was quite funny. I'm glad they used a Scouse woman to play this character, because I just think the Scouse accent is that's very hard to replicate. She was a really fun character as well, being the main friend of the young daughter in this movie. But it is what it is. It's a chicken run film. There wasn't too much to it. And this animation's been around for a long while, hasn't it? But it was still fun to watch. Yeah, not much more to say. On par with the first one, really. It's just a good movie that came and went, really. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to return to this ever so often, put it that way. But it was fine. That is Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. Next up, we have a really cool-ass movie, and that is Cisu on 4K. I really wanted to watch this one before the year end, and you know what? I'm really glad I did. Now, there's not much story to this movie. It's basically just a film that uses death and violence to get by. But I didn't mind that. I usually love story in my movies, but this really didn't need it because of the style of the film. And it's the end of the war, and the Nazis are coming out of Finland, is it, where this movie's made? And Cisu is just this character. No, it's actually not Cisu. That's not his name in the movie. But this old guy, he's sort of on the outskirts of town. He's found all this gold, and these Nazis find him with the gold when they're just on their travels, and they want to take the gold away from him. But they're finding it very difficult because this guy is just an absolute war machine, a one-man war machine, and they can't seem to draw a drop of blood from him, and he just basically is stabbing them in the head. He's throwing mines at them to blow them up. I mean, this movie is just off the scale. Felt like a Tarantino, if Tarantino done a full-on action movie at times. That's what it felt like. This guy is just cool as fuck, man. I mean, he's awesome. And the violence and stuff, it just is really well done. Felt like a bit of a comic book war movie, if that makes sense. You know, like a war movie that was a novel at some point or something. I know it's not, but that's what it felt like. I had a really fun time with this. I really did. If you want something very simple, 90 minutes to fly by with some cool-ass moments, give Cisu a go, and look great on 4K as well. Next up, I watched Wonka. Now, I wasn't really expecting too much from this because I'm not really the biggest fan of musicals, but my God, man, I was kind of blown away by how good this movie was. It's a prequel to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Forget what it's called. It's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, isn't it? Yeah, it's a prequel to that, but it sort of stands on its own. I mean, you can kind of just watch this and not have too much knowledge of that movie because I wouldn't say it plays into it too much. And this basically follows Timothy Chalamet, who's playing Willy Wonka, going to this new town to open his chocolate store because that's his dream, because he makes amazing chocolate. And there's these three chocolatiers in the movie, these three chocolatier businessmen who want to drive him out of town because they feel threatened by how good his chocolate is. And they've just got the town, basically, that's their thing. They don't want anyone intruding. And you know what? just a really fun time, this. It really was. I mean, the three villains, every time they were on screen, I was laughing my ass off. Timothy Chalamet put a really great performance in here as a young Willy Wonka. I thought he got it down to a T. There's lots of magic and silly dialogue thrown in, kind of like the original movie, but it all just works. And it was a movie that I really wanted to work out for the characters. There's lots of side characters here that Willy Wonka becomes friends with. And you kind of, they kind of come together to get past this thing they need to do. Like, they're being used for slave labor in the movie. I don't want to give too much away, but they all kind of come together to get past that and take these three villains down. So yeah, I had a great time with it. And the music was really fun as well. I mean, I was just tapping away, you know, as the film was going on. My wife actually just been to watch it again. She's been to see it twice. That's how much she enjoyed it. She took her mum and stuff. So yeah, I thought this was a really good time. Really heartwarming film. Just a real feel-good movie. So that is Wonka. Next up is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, this is a film I really wanted to rewatch because I feel like I didn't really give it a fair enough time at the cinema. In the middle of the year there, I was going to bed really late and then getting up in the middle of the night with my young son and then getting up early for work. And I was just tired all the time. And I've learned to go to bed at 10 o'clock these days and I feel a lot much better. But I was kind of just dropping off in the cinema when this one was on. I was fighting sleep. And despite not being the biggest fan of the first movie, this one just wasn't really relating to me. However, when I rewatched the first one, and you guys can tell how much I loved it, I was very excited to check this one out because I thought, you know what, I need to give that another go. And I'm glad I did. This is now in my top 10 movies of the year. It was at about 30 odd, but now it's in my top 10. Yeah, again, great animation. In bringing back the characters from the first movie, especially Gwen, who has a large part of this movie to play as well. There's kind of like two stories going on here because these two are kind of missing each other and stuff like that because they're really good friends in the first one. But there's this villain called the Spot who seems like a bit of a joke at first, but then he becomes into something a lot more stronger. There's a spider hub in this movie where Miles goes and he's getting chased out of it at one point and there's all these Spider-Men just chasing him. And I was watching it going, how did they fit all of this on one screen? Like, all these characters, and why is it doing what it's doing? That should not be able to be done. It's animation done amazingly. It really is. My only problem with it was the ending. Like, I like the cliffhanger. I do. I think it's going to be an awesome setup for the next movie, but it doesn't feel like a fully flushed out story. It definitely feels like part 1 of 2, even though I know it's going to be part 3, but the first movie felt like a fully flushed out film. This one feels like one half of another story, basically. So I wish it would have ended. I like the cliffhanger, but I wish it would have been a fully rounded film, really. I mean, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Maybe another 20 minutes could have done that, but I'm still very excited for, you know, the next one. I forgot what the name of it's going to be, but I'm very, very excited for that. So that is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. From one brilliant comic book movie to a pretty bad one now, and that is Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Missed this one at the cinema, finally caught it. I kind of really did not like this movie. And the more I think about it, the more I kind of hated it. I give it 2.5 on my letterbox. I think I probably would have bumped it down to a 2 at most. This just felt like, I was watching it going, isn't this meant to be DC? It felt like a child's cartoon come to life. And it was just a very silly film. Even sillier than some of the Marvel movies and stuff. I was like, what the hell am I watching here? It's basically just Shazam and his family trying to take down, or Zachary Levi's character, should I say, trying to take down these two evil villains in Meryl Streep and Lucy Liu. And it's a movie you've seen all before, but there's one moment where these two villains release these monsters into the world, and it just looks so stupid, the CGI and stuff. I was like, what the hell is going on here? There's a couple of fun moments. I like the moment where they were saving everyone off the bridge. I thought that was pretty fun. Rachel Zegler was a welcome character. I thought she'd done a good job here. But, oh man, what a poor comic book movie this was. Just really did not like it. It's not a patch on the first one, which I actually did like. That is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Last up, guys, I was saving this one for New Year's Eve. I bought it a few months ago. Thought, I'll watch that on New Year's Eve. And that is New Year's Evil. And what a sad way to end the year with, really. Because this was a film that I could not wait to end. And it was only 86 minutes long. And it just dragged and dragged and dragged. It's basically about this radio host who is getting a few calls off this killer saying he's going to kill people at every stroke of midnight around the different time zones around America. So some people have at 12 o'clock, don't they? But in another part of it, it might be 11 o'clock or whatever. So he's killing people every time there's a time zone hitting 12 o'clock. And it's the stroke of midnight at New Year, basically. But he's phoning this character up, and man, the voice is like a ghost face if you ordered it off Wish. It was just like, my name is Evil. Yeah, I mean, this is a really poor slasher movie. I did not like it at all. And yeah, at least there's a New Year's holiday film to watch, I suppose. But yeah, maybe next year I'll do End of Days instead. So that is New Year's Evil. Okay, guys, hope you all enjoyed this video. What did you think of these movies that I watched? Do you like them? Do you not? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down below and I'll get back to you all, I promise. Thanks so much, everyone. You take care, and I'll see you on the next video.